So, even though last time I talked about how, with God's eyes, with God's awareness, I became, I started to know that there is God and not God, that there's energies of God and not of God, i.e., from the devil, and how different modalities are not what people hope and wish for they would be. Healing modalities, I meant. And yet it took me quite a while to accept God and to accept God as being my true master, my therapy and therapist, and my guide. For quite some time after starting my journey with God, I still have received therapies such as cranial sacral therapy. And I thought, well, it's nice and maybe I can kind of help along. You cannot help God along. That is your ego choosing, because things happen in God's pace, and also um, knowing sometimes the way things are is exactly how it should be. Anyways, so I have received cranial sacral therapy for a while still practicing shiatsu, and also another healing modality that I had trained in when I lived in Japan by somebody called Dr. Eric Poe. So I kind of still did these things and thought kind of, yeah, well, wanting to be the therapist. That for me, it just did not sink in for a while how to step out of the way and let God do the work alone, and that it is okay to completely trust and rely on God. The idea that God then would, you know, take a little bit of a backseat, I did not really catch that at that time yet. While I was still doing what I was doing, God thought, well, I'll let you get on with it. Once I allowed God to move in and let go of these things, i.e., receiving therapies and giving other modalities to people, well, letting go of the energy work first of all, but with my shiatsu, what happened then, because God stepped forward and purer, people started noticing it themselves. They started noticing when I gave them shiatsu how more happened than they would had bargained for. They wouldn't just get their meridians work, the muscles squeezed. They would feel that energies that are not good were removed from them. Healings happen inwardly, or even on psychological issues, where they have, which they have worked on for years. You know how you go to therapies, pat the little wild beast and put him back in the cage, and yet suddenly the beast was gone. I had people who liked it, but I also had people who shied back from me, especially people who were involved in shamanism and witchcraft, because by me just touching them with God's hands, of course these things were removed or were offered to them to be removed. So they stopped coming, and I realized how few people actually wanted God. So I had decided to let go even of my shiatsu slowly. Well, not quite yet. It was also kind of taken away from me, to be honest. There had two situations when I was kind of kicked out of the clinic I worked in. The first one was I kept feeling these horrible angry eyes following me everywhere when I was working in the clinic that I worked in. And at some point I heard a voice say, and I believe it was God, well, it's time for you not to go. So I left the keys on the table. Once morning I did something there, dropped off some money or something, and I just found a nice excuse and left. And I came back after some time, and even though then I had some clients who did like my shiatsu with God, there was this girl who came into the clinic, worked as well as a shiatsu practitioner, and yet people wanted to see me. And I had less and less clients over time. And then I found out from somebody that she had done her witchcraft to kick me out. So I thought, okay, it's her space, I'll let go. So that's how I let basically then go of my shiatsu in a proper therapy setting. And just allowed God in. And I had noticed once that happened, truly let God in. He filled me more completely, and I could go for walks, meet people, and I would suddenly feel His radiance work through me and give people healing. When I went and go into shops, I am aware that when people have helped me, God works through me to them to send them healing, or maybe fulfill them a wish that I don't even know about. The other day I was aware um, I wanted to cross a road. A girl helped me and she talked about a university she wanted to enter. Suddenly I felt, bing, Christ work through me. And I get the feeling that she is going to have that wish granted. And these things were happening all over the years since I allowed God in. Yes, you can only have one master. It is either him or the other side. And I had decided my master shall be God, my therapist, my therapy shall be God. And it is like that when you sit with God, all these different little selves of yours, to make it in a short explanation, because they come home, all of their true needs will be fulfilled and they can change behaviors, become one with yourself once more. So you become a whole person rather than a bit of a patchwork. And if I review back how many so-called therapies work, you also got a lot of teachings when you train in any therapy about money making. And how often do we hear, well, if you people book 6 sessions, they can have it cheaper and blah blah blah. And I think, well, but that means people have to come and see you more times than once, even if you could, let the problem heal within one session. So, and then of course the quality of the healing over time is naturally going to dwindle because you want people to come back. And so in that sense you also want people to be sick. So anyways, that is the continuing or consequence that I took, which took me a while though, after realizing or being shown by God what we call healing is often not healing at all, like we have discussed in the last little video. And yeah, surprisingly again, how little few people actually wanted God. It was definitely time for me to let go of shiatsu, especially if God had to take a backseat when I did practice. And often I did also notice, this is an important one, that I was getting in the way. Like when I would work on people's meridians or squeeze their backs or whatever, I felt actually I'm only meant to sit here and hold the hand for half an hour. But that's not what most people want. They want the action. So yeah, that was me choosing God as my master.